Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Mr. Yashwant Sinha, the former finance minister of the country and the former external affairs minister as well. Mr. Sinha, thank you very much for joining us. We spoke to you earlier today. You were in Hazaribagh. I believe you're in Delhi now. This must be a very difficult moment for you, sir.
Yes, because I had the opportunity of knowing Mr. Vajpayee as Prime Minister, but also as a great human being. And he, he was always very affectionate, and therefore it is a personal loss to me that he is no more with us.
Do you think, sir, we have a politician of the kind Vajpayee was? Because he was somebody who could take people along.
I would say that he was not a politician. He was a statesman. He had a vision. He could see things, the difficulties as well as the opportunities very clearly, and always thought in terms of the long term. So he was a statesman. He was a great human being, and he is, always thought of the people, of the country, and never hurt his adversaries. He never did anything which would have hurt those who were challenging him.
Mr. Sinha, we were just speaking to Mr. Kanchan Gupta, his former OSD, and he was extremely distraught. But one anecdote that I came across when we were preparing for this broadcast was when, during the Narasimha Rao government, Mr. Vajpayee was in the opposition and he had criticized Manmohan Singh's budget. And Narasimha Rao actually called up Vajpayee to tell him that you've really hurt Manmohan Singh, and Manmohan Singh now wants to resign. And then Vajpayee personally intervened to make that call to Manmohan Singh to tell him that, listen, this is only for political brownie points. Do not take this personally. And apparently, he saved the day. So, would you like to tell us about moments like that?
No, but there are very many moments where he took on his adversaries in Parliament or outside. And on each occasion, he made absolutely enchanting speeches. But never once would he say anything which would hurt his opponents. He was a great parliamentarian. I remember an occasion, when after the nuclear test, a discussion was taking place in Lok Sabha, and he made a remark to Sonia Gandhi. He said, in these circumstances, what would you have done? And then he sat down to give her an opportunity to reply if she wanted to. And she did not reply, so he got up again and resumed his speech. So in parliamentary tactics, he was absolutely unmatched.
And when we remember his legacy, sir, we remember Pokhran, we remember his role during the Kargil War, putting pressure on the Pakistani forces in Nawaz Sharif to retreat as well, unconditionally. We remember the Lahore Declaration, that historic bus ride to Lahore. But according to you, what was probably the most difficult moment of the Vajpayee PMO? He had been the Prime Minister for 13 days, 13 months and 6 years as well.
Well, I suppose, the loss of power in 1999, when we lost that vote of confidence in Lok Sabha by just one vote, that was, I think, a moment which made us all feel distraught, including Mr. Vajpayee, because we did not expect that the loss will be by such a narrow margin. But that's where it was. And you will remember that he made one of his great statements in Parliament when he said in Hindi that the mandi was there and it had commodities which were up for sale, but we didn't want to buy.
Mr. Sinha, thank you very much for joining us and recounting your times. And finally, sir, my final question as I let you go. Do you think India would miss a statesman like Atal Bihari Vajpayee?
Such statesmen come once in ages. It is not every day that you have a statesman of his stature. He was an exception, and we'll have to wait until we find another one like him.
Any message to the present government or even the present opposition on what you should learn from Vajpayee?
Mr. Vajpayee, the gentlemanliness is what you should learn. Kindness is what you should learn. Affection is what you should learn. And, political differences should not be converted into personal rancor is what one should learn from him.
Mr. Sinha, appreciate you joining us at this very, very tragic hour. Thank you very much for sharing your views and thoughts. Mr. Ajay Singh continues to be with us. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for being patient, and I'm sorry to keep you waiting all this while. Your thoughts at this stage, sir, and how would the industry remember Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee?
Look, as I said, I think he was one of India's greatest sons. We will remember him for the fact he stood for a kinder, gentler India, and yet he stood for a fiercely patriotic India. His actions for the business community in opening up various sectors, in speeding up India's economy, getting rid of a lot of the bureaucratic hurdles that stood in the way of Indian business, I think will always be remembered by the business community. But over and above what he did for the business community, I think that he really, the fact that today India can aspire to be a world leader is owed in a very large part to his leadership and to his vision. I think he was one of India's greatest leaders, and I think India will always owe him a very huge debt of gratitude.
Absolutely, sir. We will miss his oratory skills. We'll miss his statesmanship as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ajay Singh, Chairman, SpiceJet. I believe the Vice President of India and the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Venkaiah Naidu, has also reacted. Let's listen in to that soundbite.
Very sad to know about the demise of the nation's beloved leader, Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Sri Atalji is a multifaceted personality. He was a statesman, great parliamentarian, great administrator, great orator, great poet, great thinker, and great philosopher.
Sudhindra Kulkarni, look at his external affairs minister, Yashwant Sinha, look at his finance minister, Yashwant Sinha. Look at how Atal Bihari Vajpayee managed to get the best of all these individuals. L.K. Advani, who was the home minister, rose to become the deputy prime minister, but Venkaiah Naidu, who was the then BJP president, tried to elevate both at the same level by describing Atal Bihari Vajpayee while he had gone for a G20 summit as a Vikas Purush and L.K. Advani as a Law Purush. It's not as if that Atal Bihari Vajpayee felt offended or anything. He perhaps did feel hurt with the fact that while he was not on Indian soil, his own party president had made this move, and surely he must have felt that was this move made because his best friend L.K. Advani wanted to make that move. All he did was na tire, na retire, Advani ji ke netritva mein party chale Vijay ki or. And all hell broke loose within the next 24 hours. All political parties which are affiliated with the NDA came to Atal Bihari Vajpayee to express their support. And guess what happened? L.K. Advani, by the end of it all, himself came to Vajpayee ji to say he was still the supreme leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party. I think that's the greatness of the man. When you try and bring your opponent, so to say, on your same side without offending that opponent, I think it's a great ability. Yashwant Sinha. Yeah. Yashwant Sinha. I was talking about Yashwant Sinha. Yashwant Sinha is on the phone line. Yashwant ji, thank you so much for joining us. I was in fact just reminiscing about the times when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister and you were his Finance Minister, sir, and the External Affairs Minister as well. Take us through your times with Atal Bihari Vajpayee, your memory of Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Well, it was a great privilege working with him in the Ministry of Finance as well as in External Affairs. He was one of the greatest Indians of our time, and he was always full of affection and consideration. And those were very difficult days. I'd like to remind you that when he assumed office and the government came into existence, there was, the East Asian crisis raging in our backyard, as they say. And it had its deleterious impact on our economy. And then on top of it, we went for the nuclear test, which led to all kinds of sanctions from all manner of countries. So we were in a very, very difficult situation. The sentiment, which is the main guiding force of any economy, was completely destroyed as a result of that. And we were facing a situation where people were just giving up on us globally. And it was in these difficult circumstances that we had to steer the ship of state. I presented my first budget a few days after the Pokhran nuclear tests. And then we carried on because Mr. Vajpayee had told us clearly that we will not succumb to pressure and that the countries which had imposed sanctions on us must come back to us and tell us that they have lifted the sanctions. We will not go running to them. And ultimately, that's exactly what happened.
What was it about him, sir? What was it about him? While you're talking about the nuclear sanctions which were imposed post the Pokhran tests in 1998, was at any stage, since you worked with him so closely, at any stage did he come across as someone who was unnerved? Did he feel the pressure getting to him?
No, not for a moment. Not for a moment was he unnerved. And I told you, he told us very clearly that we are not going to go with a begging bowl to anyone. We are not going to plead with any country to lift the sanctions. We will wait until good sense dawns upon them and they agree to lift the sanctions themselves. And that's exactly what happened. And it all started with President Clinton visiting India. And that, in the meanwhile, Kargil had taken place after the nuclear test. So those were, days of such enormous challenges that I sweat when I think about them even today.
What tell us something about his take on Pakistan. He made two monumental moves, so to say, iconic moves. He took the bus ride, went to Lahore, ended up getting Kargil. Invited Parvez Musharraf for the Agra summit, and that summit didn't get us anywhere, ended up abruptly. Did he feel let down by the Pakistanis? Let's look at it this way, and I've been asking this question to myself all through the day today. If Atal Bihari Vajpayee was still around, sir, and if Imran Khan had become the Prime Minister, and if Imran invited Atal Bihari Vajpayee, would Vajpayee have gone to Pakistan?
Before I answer that question, let me tell you that there are many people who believe that Vajpayee made a mistake in going to Lahore. His bus ride was actually, he was taken for a ride by Musharraf when they attacked us in Kargil. And then there was the attack on Indian Parliament. There was a failed summit at Agra. And then we had massed our troops on the international border and the LOC. And some people regard all this as a mistake in foreign policy that Mr. Vajpayee committed. I don't think so. I personally feel that, these series of events finally led to the statement which was issued after his meeting with Musharraf in Islamabad on 6th January 2004. And that was a seminal statement, the importance of which unfortunately has not been realized by many people even in India. That was the document, a joint press statement in which Pakistan admitted for the first time that it was exporting terror and violence to India and that it will desist from doing so. And that was the high point of his diplomacy with Pakistan. And, this whole theory of talks and terror not going together emanates from there. And it was a great diplomatic victory that India scored in Islamabad under his leadership. And it is unfortunate that the government went out of power in May of that year. If it had continued, then I'm quite confident that we would have started a new chapter with Pakistan under his leadership.
And what about the second part of the question, sir? Would he have accepted the hand of friendship if Imran Khan would have extended that hand today?
He would have extended his hand of friendship.
You would have extended his
You
hand
know,
of
instead
friendship.
of responding to somebody else's hand of friendship, he would have perhaps extended his hand of friendship, which he did most unexpectedly to Pakistan in his Srinagar speech of April 2003.
Yashwantji, I must also ask you before I let you go, sir, we're just playing pictures of the past, of an era which existed at one point of time. L.K. Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, all of them together. Talk us through about this equation between Lal Krishna Advani and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. For me, as a budding young reporter in the late 90s, I was always amazed that how could a man like Atal Bihari Vajpayee be best friends with an individual who also wanted to be in the same position as Atal Bihari Vajpayee? How did he deal with L.K. Advani, sir?
No, but you go back a little in the past. I mean, they exchanged the posts of president of the party, leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. So they had an excellent working relationship, which despite the ups and downs, was maintained at a certain level all the time. And this is a lesson to many other people who feel threatened by competition.
Isn't that such a huge tribute to give, sir? Because I look at the entire lexicon of BJP leaders today. From Chief Ministers, Vasundhara Raje is extremely emotional. She's cancelled her yatra that she was undertaking in Rajasthan. Shivraj Singh Chauhan, another individual, Prime Minister Modi himself, Arun Jaitley, the who's who of the BJP's rank and file today, all owe their prominence in some ways, in large ways perhaps, to an Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Do you believe that that sense of building up of individuals, is now disappeared from politics? Yes, go ahead, Yashwantji.
No, I'll give equal credit to Advani ji. Together they built a team which was, not only ready to help them in their endeavors, but also carry the agenda of the country forward. In fact, contribute to the building up of that agenda. So it goes to the credit of Advani ji and Vajpayee ji that they built this great team and worked with the team. Essentially, they believed in working with the team.
Why do you think, sir, that ability of building up of individuals, that ability seems to have gone missing now from the rank and file of political ecosystem now?
I would say that comes out of self-confidence.
His supreme self-confidence.
He was a leader who never felt threatened.
Okay.
He didn't think that X, Y, or Z was threatening, including Advani ji, that he was threatening his position. So it was that confidence which enabled him to carry people with him.
And in conclusion, sir, let me ask you, a lot of our viewers have been tweeting pictures of famous poems, lines, quotes which were written by Atalji. Any poem which comes to your mind today?
Not particularly. I'm not great in poetry.
Okay.
I quoted from his poems when I used to present my budget. He was a poet in his own right. There is no doubt about that.
Okay. Yashwantji, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for talking to us on a day when nation quite clearly has lost a phenomenal leader. The kind of tributes which are pouring in, the sentiments which are being expressed, they really tell you about the sheer vastness of the political character of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And right through this evening, we'll try and delve deeper into what is it that goes into the making of a mind, of a giant like Atal Bihari Vajpayee. The president of the country has described him as a gentle giant. Amit Shah, the BJP president, has described him as a great Prerna Strot, someone who will continue to guide entire future generations of the Bharatiya Janata Party. But just look, from an Anand Sharma to a Yashwant Sinha to a Mamata Banerjee to a Naveen Patnaik, I'm told Uddhav Thackeray is landing in Delhi in the next couple of hours with his entire family. Corporate tycoons are all expressing a sense of bereavement. I mean, the sheer expanse.
No, Bhupen, I was just thinking, when I was researching my book on Mayawati, and I found such interesting details of how